Okay, we are going live again. Sorry about that. Had to reboot and get everything up and go because, you know, issues. What else you gonna do? Uh, Pen suddenly wasn't working. Something having to do with bringing in the stream. Said, we're not working with the pen anymore, and that's a shame. But I'm gonna have to figure that out. I may have to end up. All right. Hopefully, some of y'all can find this, and we're gonna give a second. Let me see. Can I share this out from here? I don't know that I can, other than just send it out to everybody. Give me just a second. And I'm gonna go on to Facebook and find it streaming and send to a few friends that might be stuck. Let's see. No, I can't share it. Okay, well, that sucks. Why can't I share it? I think I can share it. But I can't share it. Huh. Wonder if I have to change something on here. Okay, copy link. Okay, I can do that. I can copy the link. And send that out to some friends. So give me a second to get done with the boring stuff here because I got the link and now that link's not working. So and that's just no fun. And everybody that knows to look for me knows to look for that link that I already shared out. And now that one didn't work. And that one again. So, poo-poo, ka-choo. So, there. Okay, there we go. I've sent it to a couple of friends. We're going to come back here in the live studio. Who doesn't love an Aceblade cover? That's what PJ says, and I'm with you, man. I dig it. I don't know who wouldn't love an Aceblade cover. It was amazing. And this dude here, this is an awesome look design for a character here for this tournament. For some reason, I kept wanting to call him Deuteronomy in my head forever since I first seen this character's design. It just got stuck in my head as Deuteronomy. But it's Detrimony. And it's such a cool looking design for a character with like the blades on the head and I love the simplicity of it. I love everything about the look of the character. So this is what we're going to be working on today. What's up, Daniel? Up in the house, man. Glad you could make it. Glad we finally got everything figured out. Now I was thinking admittedly, I've only had the time to glance through the books a couple of times, and I've glanced at them well, and I've paid attention, but I haven't actually got a chance to sit down and read every word in it. I apologize for that. I've just been swamped because I have been busting my butt trying to get ready for the con this weekend in Atlanta, only to find out it got rescheduled yesterday because everybody's on strike and none of the big guests can come. So I've been busting my butt trying to prepare for that, trying to juggle everything and placing orders. And man, I've been like ordering new clothes to wear to the con, all of that stuff, and getting new stuff. Man, I got trading cards printed and stuff so I could do sketch cards and all of this stuff ready to go. It's all canceled. But it'll all be ready for my next couple of shows in September. Uh, Good deal. Glad you could come hang out with us this morning, man. But anyway, as I was looking over the books, I was, and I've been thinking back about like the other pinups that I've seen because I've really been noticing your character since you launched these things. And because, like I said, it's an iconic look. And, the rain and stuff is always captured really well. But I don't remember seeing anything playing up his durability, and not to ruin anything in the books, but there's a bit with a sniper rifle that cracked me up. And so I thought if it's cool with you, I might kind of play up that aspect in this image if that doesn't give too much away for you there. But it's already in the second issue. So it should be cool, I would think, to go on the next issue. So that's my thought for right now. We're going to start playing around and figure it out. And then it's always like getting that cool look, that kind of powerful classic feel. Like you want him to feel big and powerful and menacing and, oh my God, who is this dude that can't be stopped? Good deal. Boss man digs it, I dig it. We're good to go. And you really want to play up that, oh my God, who is this aspect to make people make people stop and come check out your book at the con, and make people, want to have to buy a copy and figure out like, okay, I got to know what's going on here. Like I got a giant poster of my dude Virgil, a giant banner at shows with me standing up. And, it's almost as tall as he is. And it always stops people in their tracks. And they're like, okay, I got to know who this is now. And that usually is enough to give me enough of a chance to get my foot in the door with him. And just the look of him has been such a big win for me, like in getting people to stop. Just getting that initial stop, and then I can take it from there. If I can get you to pay attention for just a second and ask, okay, what the hell's going on here? I need to know more about this. And so that's what we want to capture. We want to get that look. Okay, what the hell? Who is this dude? He looks badass. Why are these bullets bouncing off of him like that? And then you get to pitch your story, and I dig the way the story starts, because like I've run role playing games and stuff for years, and I've always loved kind of starting games off with just like, okay, you wake up, you don't know who you are, you don't know where you are. What are you going to do? Let's figure this out. And to me, those kind of games have been so much fun and really push the creativity of the players and stuff to try and like figure out who you are and use their brain and their muscles and stretch their creativity in ways that they maybe haven't stretched it before. And I've always enjoyed the results of that. It's always come out to be a cool game in the end. And And this very much had that vibe to me of just like, you wake up, oh crap, let's figure out where we're going from here. And that's just such a fun challenge to me. Good morning, Sarah. Glad to see you again. Missed you. I was telling all my friends that I've been so busy prepping for Urban NerdCon this weekend in Atlanta just to get word last night, that it got canceled. Well, it's gotten postponed, is what it got, till May of next year. And at first, I was real mad about it. And then I remembered all the actors are on strike, all the writers are on strike. So all the big names that they were counting on being there for the show to help draw in fans and stuff can't be there right now. And that sucks. Yeah, that sucks. Like my wife had already booked like $700 worth of hotel room for us to stay in at the con, and we were going to get there, and she had just changed our reservation so that we would be getting there early, getting there Thursday, and then staying and leaving out on Monday, because that's just easier on my old frame and my Tourette's and stuff, and better to be able to take a break and rest than be in a big rush. And and all of a sudden last night she had to hurry up and cancel it. And for some reason, the phones were just ringing off the freaking hooks at the hotel and took her forever to get through. I wonder why. I wonder if a bunch of people were calling to cancel their reservations. Top of his head is 5 blades. Reference you using artists made them spikes. Oh yeah. I mean, I noticed like some people have done it differently, but it was blades in the book, so that's what I'm planning on. But I appreciate you pointing that out, because and that's something I gotta say. That's something ever since I started, because like my first jobs anywhere close to the comics book industry was doing character drawings for people. Like, I got an idea for a superhero. Will you draw it for me? Yes, I'm desperate to get my foot in the door. I'll do it for $30. And, so I did a lot of those in the beginning, and it drove me nuts how often, like almost every single time, somebody would give me like a stack of 5 drawings, and they would have to make an excuse for every single drawing. It's like, okay, now he looks really cool in this drawing, but he doesn't have gloves on like that. Look at this drawing for how his hands look. And this drawing's really cool, except his mask doesn't look like that. And this one's really cool, except he doesn't have a cape. But this guy just drew him with a cape. And this guy has him flying in the air, but he can't fly. He's powerless, fisticuffs kind of character. So, here's the reference photos, but every single one of them is wrong because, this guy just does what he wants, and this guy didn't listen. And when I told this guy he can't fly, he got mad and said, you get what you get. And that drove me nuts, that clients would be paying for work and not get what they wanted. I mean, now granted, like when you're trying to figure out a character design, that can be tough because I can't read your brain. I don't know. I can't see what you're seeing in your mind. We got to try and communicate it together somehow. But like if it's supposed to be blades, it's supposed to be blades. So let's fix it and make it blades. That's not that hard. That's what it was supposed to be. That's what it should be. But the fact that not everybody acts that way, that drives me nuts. That I don't care for that. I don't care for that at all. I had the book pulled up, and now I don't because I had to reboot my computer. So give me 1 second. And let me pull that issue back up so I can look at the references because I was thinking, yeah, the spikes kind of swoop back, don't they? I mean, the blades, sorry. Because, like I said, I've seen a couple of different artists do them a couple of different ways, and I want to make sure that I get them the way you want them done. So, what I'm seeing is a blade like this. And if it's not this swooping horn shape that you want, let me know, and I will make it what you want it to be, because that's just silly to me that somebody wouldn't. But it happens all the time. And, and I get like sometimes we're in a hurry and we've offered a really cheap deal on commissions or something. But like, if the character can't fly, it can't fly. Like, one of my Patreon supporters, Nick, his character Phoenix is like, this two-dimensional. He's from another dimension, if I remember correctly, and he can fold flat to like a two-dimensional form and become like a Mr. Fantastic and stretch and all this stuff, but like only so far. Like his powers are limited. He's really thought this stuff through on how he works, and so like he can only go so far. I have seen so many pictures that people have drawn of this dude with him stretched way over the building tops, like Mr. Fantastic might do, just to have it be like, yeah, he can't do that. That's not something he can do, but people keep drawing him that way. And I'm like, man, y'all need to fix that. Y'all need to. Sometimes the creators need to be more vocal and be like, yeah, that he can't do that. And I get sometimes when you're dealing with somebody that maybe you don't know that well, or you've commissioned a pretty big name to do something, and maybe you're a little intimidated to be like, thank you so much, Jim Lee, but that's not the way that's not the way his costume was. I absolutely could get that. Not wanting to say that to, somebody you're a big fan of. But also, I know as artists we want our clients to be happy with what we gave them, and I definitely don't want anybody out there saying, yeah, Fish does great work, but don't worry about the details. He's just going to do whatever he wants to do. No, that's not what we're going to be saying about Fishy. And I'm not going to be that dude. But then I will freely admit, while we're being candid and whatnot and talking about the business, there have been times that I have gotten so comfortable with a character that I ended up drifting off model book after book and kind of making the character my own design, and not even realizing that I was doing it, or that not realizing for sure that I was taking it away from what the creator had intended. I just added little nuances to make it look cooler to me, and make the eyes a little more expressive and whatnot. And come to find out later that wasn't what the client had wanted it to look like. And I'm like, oh crap, my bad, I'm sorry, let me go back and fix that. Well, I mean, I can't go back to the books that are printed, but I can go back and change it now and make sure that it's not going to continue to be off model. And yeah, sometimes it happens. You get excited and get carried away working on something, and it starts to become your vision of it and not the client's vision. And in that case, you got to be cool and willing to say, you know what, you're absolutely right. Sorry, got carried away. And of course, if they had said something anywhere along the way in any of those other books, I would have absolutely stopped and fixed it right then. But, you know, they didn't want to be all, they didn't want to complain and stuff. And I get that feeling. But as an artist, I'd rather fix it earlier than know, like a book got published and didn't want that way. I think clients' wants matter, but there's a reason for most decisions made at the artist level. No, there is. There absolutely is. Like I'm doing things willy nilly, like like on the Sentinels. I had over the issues, Black Orchid's mask got bigger and bigger and kind of more diamond shaped as it went on, so that exposed more of her eye and gave me a lot more room for expression and stuff in there rather than having it be just a little cutout around her eye. But there is a cutout around her eye. It's not like a magic mask that just goes up to her eyelids and glues on. There's a cutout around her eyes. It's just very small. So I ended up making it a little bigger, and it just kind of gradually grew as the books went on and became bigger. And he had to point it out to me in the last book that I was off model. I was like, dang. And the part that really bothered me about it is that I got it wrong, because I'm usually pretty good about checking that stuff and keeping an eye on it. But I realized I had kind of drifted away on a couple of things because I do it all the time and I got comfortable. Like Spider-Man's mask, kind of, yeah, sort of. Like Spider-Man's went from being eye lenses to being these big, gigantic things, over the years. And to each their own. Each artist does things a little bit differently and whatnot. And like, I remember being so angry when guys like Eric Larson and stuff like started making the eyes move on Spider-Man's mask. I was like, that is sewn into his mask. How is he one going to be this big and the other one's going to be this big? It's great for showing expression in a character whose entire face is covered. Absolutely great for showing expression. But it just didn't make sense to me. Now, the way they do it now in the movies, that's pretty freaking cool. I dig that. But just, I sewed this costume myself in my, aunt's upper room, and this magically moves like, I don't know. But I digress. All right, I'm wondering. And Daniel, if you're here still, you can let me know. I don't know her name. I apologize. The lady in the green suit that he's chasing after. I thought about putting her in the background of this. What do you think about that? I'll throw it out there to you. Thought about maybe shrinking him down a little bit, and so that she could be over his shoulder as like he's getting shot at. Let me know your thoughts on that if you're still listening. Um, I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of this layer and leave that one as it is, so that I can have it to go back to if once I start making these changes we don't like it, or Daniel wants to go a different direction, have it just be him. If I put him over to the side a little bit, then problem I don't like here is then it cuts right off at his hand. So we're going to have to move that and put a hand here. The thing I like about this angle is it kind of makes it look like he's swooping in now to block her, which would be cool. That could be a cool look. Move him around a little bit, show a little bit more of his panels on his legs here. Which one of the things I like about this character is it's a simple design. So many characters now were like designed in like hero creation apps and stuff that just slap 2D clip art pieces together and make a character out of it. And it's perfectly okay to fill those designs full of all kinds of crazy little details, because those aren't going to have to get drawn a million times. That's just slapping clip art together. And for like a writer who's not an artist and doesn't have to draw this, that stuff looks really cool. As an artist, some of it looks really cool but doesn't work three-dimensionally, and trying to figure out, okay, you put gigantic blades on the side of her shoulders, but then how do I draw her raising her hand like you want her doing in the book and not stabbing herself in her ears with these blades? And that can be an issue. So I can't take her too high because we need to have room for the title. My character designs went from simple, just starting out, to complex, then back to simple. When I realized I'd have to draw those details, I had it over and over again. Absolutely. Oh man, I feel that so bad. I used to draw cyborgs with every bolt and nut and cable and piston and gear, and it all like looked like it would work and made sense. And then I realized I am not drawing that a million times. I'm not doing it. So my designs changed significantly. Looking good, man. These calls keep coming, so I haven't heard as much, but the art looks cool. So are you cool with me adding the girl in the green suit behind him? As long as you're cool with that, then I'll keep going the way I'm going, or I'll go back to just doing a picture of him. Either way, whatever's cool with you. Like when I did the first issue of Green Zone, I put everybody in these jumpsuits because I wanted a misdirect at one point in the comic that you figured these guys are all criminals because of the way things were playing out in the beginning, and then realize, oh wait, no, they're not criminals, they're the good guys. Well, I mean, they're here to be cops anyway. They're not bad guys. And I wanted that misdirect, so I put him in that jumpsuit just for that gag, just for that bit. And so like that was something I didn't want to give away at first, that they were cops. Now that's why Virgil isn't in a police uniform on the cover of the book, because that book came out quite a time before the rest of the books did. Um, but now everybody knows that the cops, so I show them as such. Got my little handy dandy model here that my buddy printed out for me. Bought the model from a really great 3D designer, and it was so hard to find like a normal looking female head that wasn't either super stylized or or very significantly one person. Like I could absolutely like had my wife's head scanned and you know got one made of her, but then it doesn't really do me any good if every woman I draw from now on kind of looks like my wife. She might dig it, but that would make my characters kind of one note. So I needed to find a head that was not it's not totally generic, but it's a lot closer to a generic artist type head than a lot of the other ones that I could find. And it really helps on some of these angles to figure out, like, oh, okay, well, the ear would show up over there. And I'm all about increasing my skills, and I'm good and I make a living doing what I'm doing, and I could just draw heads from my imagination all the time and do great, do fine, but think you were talking to me but couldn't hear till now. Okay, apologize. I had thought about adding the girl in the green suit to the background of this, like he was jumping in to protect her from bullet fire, was what I was thinking. If you're cool with that, I'll continue on it. If not, I can always go back to the other version of it. I just seemed like a cool idea to me, and so I started working on that. You can tell me to stop if you want to, no worries. Good deal. Good deal. I'm glad. That's something, because I'm as fast as I am, a lot of times, like when I get an idea for something, like the script calls for one thing and I get an idea that I think would be really cool, that's different. I have found that oftentimes it's just quicker and easier than trying to explain what I have in mind. That a lot of times it's just quicker to for me to sketch it out like this, like this kind of level of detail, and show it to them, and then they, because this, like, it took me what, 10-15 minutes to add her into this. That's not that bad. And if it helps the client visualize what I was thinking, then I'm fine with that. And if they want me to go back, I'm out 10-15 minutes of sketching out what I thought would be cool to add on. Sometimes sometimes somebody will give me a script and it'll call for, like, say 4 panels on the page. But I think, if we split this one into 3 panels, now we've got like 6 panels on the page. I think it would give more time for that beat to resonate and realize, oh, she just realized this, and now you see her reaction. And I think this looks cool. I'll sketch it out and send it to the client. If they're like, yeah, that looks great, do it. Cool. Didn't lose anything. If they say, nah, let's keep it the way it was written, okay, cool. No problem. I can go back and do it that way. I know I'm taking a risk when I do it, but if I really think that like this idea is going to make the story a little bit better, I'll go ahead and sketch it and send it to them so they can really see what I'm talking about. And I'll usually like explain my thought process for like why I think it works this way, or sometimes combining two shots together instead of making them two separate, so that I can show, okay, see, this shows where he was in relation to them. He was hiding behind the bushes, and I think that helps the story, be clearer to the reader. And usually they're like, cool, yeah, let's do that. So, all right, there we go. We have got them laid out. We've got plenty of room up top, hopefully, to have room for the title and everything. So now let's flip it, and we're going to make a new vector layer, as we always do. We're going to turn the color of that layer to black, just so it's easy for me to see right there to know that that's the ink layer. And now we're going to come in on the reverse layer, and we're going to look for things that don't look right and fix them, because things just tend to jump out more once you reverse them. And like her hand looked a little big there. And honestly, she's not a teeny tiny lady, but that shoulder looks a little big to me. So I'm gonna pull it in a little bit. Try the same thing here. And I'm probably gonna arch this one out a little bit so she sticks out a little bit more from him in the foreground. Fills up a little bit more of the page in the background here. But working in verse helps all these little things jump out at me that your brain just kind of overlooks before. It's like, oh yeah, that's a hand, that's a face, that works. And now there's room to show a little bit more of her body. Not a lot, but a little bit more, because she's pretty well covered up by bacon. Good deal. What's up, Jay, man? Glad you could pop in for a second. That's awesome, man. Good to see you. Yeah, I'll see you. But you know what it means. Take this hand. Take this hand and shove it. Go and get it out the door. The hand done moved and took all the reasons I was working for. Whoopsie. You have to be erasing, not drawing. That shoulder. Short room. Yada yada. All right, I think that's pretty good. So let's start back here. Drop that transparency a bit on that layer, and we're gonna come in, and for whatever reason we don't know, we're gonna start at the eyebrows, because that's what we do here on the School of Fish. Start at the eyebrows. Don't know why. Used to always be the shoulder blades. Now it's the eyebrows. One of the things I've really loved about working digitally is it allows me to do so much of the work in ink, and I don't have to worry about, like, if I make a mistake, it's on the page forever. And I had to learn to do this stuff before the internet. So I didn't even realize that the old timers used so much whiteout and stuff like that, and would paint over stuff or paste a new piece of paper on, or slice out the old art and slice in a new piece of paper. I didn't realize they did that. So I just taught myself to, well, we got to get this right the first time, or whatever screw ups end up on the page, we've got to make it work, because this is what we've got. I didn't realize there was as much room for correction as there is in traditional art. Had no idea. So I got real used to just having to make it work, whatever hit the page. And so I absolutely got my pencils and stuff a whole lot tighter, because it made it easier to know that this would be a success in the end, because I could erase the pencil. I couldn't erase the ink lines. So better make your mistakes in pencil. And now, I mean, eventually I just got a lot more used to doing more and more of the work in ink anyway, and pushing myself to sketch in ink and get more comfortable with my tools, so that when I did things like shows and fairs and stuff where I was doing caricatures live, I could just trust my hand and trust my tools and do more of the work in ink. And if I made a mistake, I could figure out how to work with it and make it work. And so that really got me used to, dang it, come on. Being comfortable with just working in ink. But now that I can go back and erase things that I mess up and fix things, oh man, I can do almost all of my work in actual ink now. Well, digital ink. And I know I can go back and fix it if I make a mistake. So it saves me a whole lot of time. And not for nothing, but a lot of that magic part of the art, a lot of that magic part of the creativity is in that initial first drawing for me. And so the more of that I can do in the finished image, the better it ends up coming out looking. The more of that life and flow and creativity ends up on the page, and not getting lost in pencils that are going to get erased. And I just fell in love with the liveliness and the character of my work when I could suddenly do more of it in ink like that. It just came out so much more alive to me. And because every time I go over something, it might get a little bit sharper and it might get a little more clean, but it also loses some of that passion and stuff, and some of that power and fluidity. Now, in some ways, that's a good thing, because like these blue lines, lots of passion, lots of movement, lots of fluidity, not lots of clarity, not lots of, oh, I know what that thing is supposed to be. This clearly tells the story. Not so much that. Lots of passion and movement and action. So like, coming back over it with the inks and cleaning it up is the vital process for me. Like, I've got to That's too much passion and movement and not enough clarity and storytelling. But there, it's finding that happy medium, you know, where the story's being told clearly and nothing's confusing, but you also have the freedom and the passion and the movement and the emotion, character, and all that stuff coming through. Being able to do more of my work in the ink stage now because I'm working digitally and don't have to worry about screwing up a page for good if I make a mistake. Lets me capture more of that. I hope I'm making sense. I kind of feel like I'm making a little bit of it. And I still, to keep my skills sharp, I still push myself to like just draw straight in ink sometimes. And sometimes, like when I'm drawing out things for myself, I will just draw it out in ink or in one pass, and that pass has to work. That's going to be my final image for this because I'm sketching out ideas for myself. I'm sketching out a new character idea or something. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, and maybe nobody else is going to see it but me. Or maybe it's just going to be a quick time lapse video for TikTok or something. But I push myself to still do that from time to time so that I stay sharp on what I'm doing. And I stay comfortable with trusting my lines and knowing what I'm going to put, you know, envisioning it and then making it happen. But I'm all about continuing to push yourself, continuing to learn and grow. I'm always, you know, checking out new artists, feeds on Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest and whatnot, and looking for how other people do stuff, how other people draw things. And I still regularly like will learn something new or have something explained by sometimes even essentially compared to me, kids on TikTok. And they'll be like, you know, hey, this is how I draw the muscles in the arms. This is how I draw the forearm. And will catch hold of something that like seriously fundamentally changes the way I draw those things now. And I got no problem with it because I want to keep growing and I want to keep getting better. That's absolutely my purpose. And if somebody's got tips and tricks or a podcast that's going to help me do that, like old School of Fish by George, I'm going to check that out. Watch it. I really respect the guys like there's a colorist I follow that I love. I love him mostly because he's not afraid to say from time to time, like, you know what? This is how I used to do it, and this is how I told you to do it, but that's not the best way because XYZ, and I figured out a better way, and here's how I do it now, and this is how you could do it if you wanna up your game like me. And I respect the heck out of that because not a lot of people are willing to admit, like, they may be willing to change and up their game if they figured out a better way to do it, but they're not willing to publicly say, hey, you know what, I know I told you to do it this way, but I was wrong. Here's a better way. That just makes me respect the heck. Because why wouldn't? I really dig this design. Save, save, save. Freely, man, I probably would have put some more scenes or something on his mask, but I love a good scene. That's one of your Uncle Fishy's weaknesses, a trope, if you will, in my own work, is tend to have a lot of scenes. Just because I like I like to think through how people put on costumes and stuff. And I like to think it through for different costumes because not every costume's the same. And some people have costumes made of magical materials that they don't have to worry about putting on and taking off, etc., etc., etc. And other folk do. Other folk gotta zip it up and put it on and all that. And I like to think that stuff through. Like, okay, if he's gonna zip this up and put it on, how does he get it on? Uh, you know, can he wear it under his street clothes and blah blah blah, all that stuff. Thank you, man. Yeah, I've really come to enjoying this rusty nib brush pack that I got, and it just makes everything look so much more interesting to me, and has a little more life to it, and looks a little bit more like it was drawn on paper than the perfectly smooth brush that I used to use when I first got started in Clip Studio, and I dig that. I dig that a lot. I forgot I was on that. And it's just a subtle little bit of texture. And for the most part, in a lot of things, you don't even really notice it. But it just adds that little something. Kind of like good lettering, Best lettering, you're not even going to realize the book was lettered. It just disappears and you just watched a movie play out in a book. It's kind of like that to me. Like it just adds enough to add a little something, but it's kind of hard to put your finger on it first. It's honestly funny how much work we put into emulating traditional tools when we go digital, but I do miss a lot of things about working traditionally, though. Like me and my son were just talking about a project that he's working on for the Green Zone trade, which will hopefully be coming out before long. And I gave him a time limit to get done with his story by the end of September. So hopefully he'll be done by then or before. And I can get that trade out. And if not, I'll go ahead and release it and we'll put his story in the next trade. But I really want to get his story in this one because it's a cool story that shows off more of the world of Green Zone and gets outside of the police station for a minute. And I like that. And there's some other players that have been hinted at in the books so far, and we've seen a little bit, but I want to get to give some of that some payoff and let you see more of what these organizations are like. Like for those that have got all 3 issues of Green Zone and the source book and everything, you've seen the organization Alpha hinted at in my books, which is an overarching quasi-governmental organization that manages professional heroes, and a lot like in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon, like they send strike force teams where they need to be, put teams together for each particular mission and send them out. It's the way it's literally the organization that's been in my superhero role-playing game for the last 30 years, sending characters out on missions. And it was absolutely a necessary creation just to make the game mechanics work, to explain why we had different teams going out each week on missions and it wasn't the same group of superheroes, because people would come and go. Somebody that could play on Friday couldn't necessarily play in the game on Wednesday and stuff, and vice versa. So we ended up with a changing roster all the time. And so that was a really easy way to explain why this kept changing. And, this is the team that the higher ups assigned for this mission. And if your best friend wasn't on this team this time because your best friend was out partying or whatever and didn't want to come play role playing games, uh, that's why. He wasn't deemed necessary by higher ups for this mission. But this new cat that you don't know was, which is always kind of a hard thing to explain, like in D&D, when like when you have to assign somebody new and like it's before a big campaign and you're in the pub, okay, fine, that's easy to explain. All right, your thief got drunk and is sleeping it off and isn't going to be able to go on this mission, but here's a halfling that just so happens to be drinking in the bar and says he knows something about this dungeon and he'd be happy to go along with you. So, Todd can play this week. But that's a lot harder to do when you're mid dungeon. And, and if you have characters that are intent on like role playing, it's always hard to try and get them to accept in character that this new person that we just stumbled across in the dungeon isn't, a bad guy or a doppelganger or, some kind of nefarious monster in disguise. Even though in real life they can see it's Todd sitting at the table being like, man, why are you making this hard? I don't know you're not a monster. You know those guys. You've played with those guys. So that was why I switched my game to always being shorter missions, like, and depending on knowing how much time we had for the day to play, let me know if we were going to be stopping an international band of assassins on a giant plot, or if we were going to be stopping a bank robbery. It was just to go in and smash them up and beat up the bad guys kind of thing, because we've only got a couple hours to play as opposed to having all day. But I could always keep my missions down to that one day, and so if we had to change up the roster for the next game, it was no problem because it was another mission. And that's where Alpha came from, was out of necessity. And then soon after, like in the image boom and stuff, every book was basically, supers being sponsored by some corporate team like Youngblood and Wildcats. So after that, it just kind of seemed just fit and seemed like almost like a ripoff, when it wasn't a ripoff of them at all. It was a ripoff of my buddy who ran a similar game and built a superhero organization like that to send his guys out for the exact same reason. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I'm taking that because that works. And that fixes my one major problem with running these games, making the story make sense. Why the characters keep changing and stuff. So that made it work great. So that's what Alpha is an organization that does that and sends out people on different missions and whatnot. Long way of getting around to that end of the story. This is long-winded. I know you're all aghast. Can't imagine. That's too small. That's too small, Fishy. That's what she said. That's too small. Worked out, Fishy. That might work. There we go. We're going to change the line thickness, but we don't want to process the whole line. We don't get crafty, and we're just going to try and enlarge part of the line. And we just enlarging a little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. We're going to increase that a little bit because we're getting tired of having to stroke our gunshots so many times. But it's your gunshots. You can make them however big or small you want it to be. Maybe these gunshots are from a high caliber sniper rifle. Maybe these gunshots over here from a 22. Maybe there was some squirrel hunter who saw this guy walking by and thought, you know what? He looks like a big purple squirrel. I'm going to try my luck. And he took his little shot. Saw his little 22 bullet bounce right off. Maybe he thought, damn, that was a hell of a squirrel. That's okay. It's your world. You can have nearsighted squirrel hunters shooting at superheroes if you want to. It's okay. Nobody's going to tell you can't. Except for me! We're going to wait on our computer to save. It's always smart to save. Sometimes our computer doesn't save, and we lose 5 pages worth of work. And then we're sad. We're disappointed. And we're angry. And we want to shake our little fists into the air, curse the cosmos. It doesn't do any good. So we're just going to internalize that anger. We're just going to keep it to ourselves until it blows up into a festering pool of rage. We're burned alive from the inside with the rage. But it's our rage. We can do what we want to do with it. If you want to shake your fist at the sun, you go ahead and do that. If you want to kick a metaphorical puppy, go ahead and do that. But don't kick a real puppy, boys and girls. Real puppies don't like that. And then they'll have their own rage. And they will take it out on you. And I'll be right there beside them, feeling it all. Because you kicked a puppy. Okay. Now, let me ask you about it. Are the leg pads going down his leg too far? Or is it the number of them? Because I can change that. Let's see. Okay, it's got it going down almost to the knee on that one. Let me look over here at the other reference. Because I want to be sure I correct the right issue. Okay, that didn't happen. Okay. Well, I've got them angled at the top, for one, which is not in the reference. I see. There's something that the wrong layer. Whoops, didn't want to do that either. All right, let's do this. Draw a little invisible line, and I can erase down to there. That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so if I do this, that'll make them 5. All right, there we go. We're thinking the same thing. You're on the same old wavelength. That's what they say in France. But what do they know? They eat frogs in France. Not like us civilized folks here in Louisiana eating frogs anyway. Here we go. See, I appreciate you pointing that out to me, because I did not notice that that was off model. And it happens. You know, I try hard to stick to it, but sometimes the creative juices get to flowing and you don't realize that you took a left when you should have took a left. I think the capes give a lot of dramatic motion to it, kind of make it look like she was coming this way. He swooped in, blocked the bullets. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool indeed for the chicks I date. Well, then we switch it back, and now we look for any other little issues that might have popped up. Okay, now we're going to go back to our change the line thickness tool here. We're going to make it the whole line, and we're going to go to thicken, and we're going to drop this back way down now because we're going to be working on a lot finer lines. And feels like this needs to be a little bit darker here. Pop a little bit more right there. Thin down these lines on her cape a little bit to drop it back in the distance a little bit more. So it's not competing so much with the lines on his. And this is nice. I mean, you can't do that with traditional inks. You can't go back and, I mean, you can change the thickness. You can bold a line up easy. But you can't thin it down if you made it too thick very easily. All right. I'm digging that. I think that looks mighty fine. Mighty fine indeed. All right. Set that. How long have we been going? Oh, we've been going hour 13. I could keep going for a little bit. Forgot what I was doing. Gonna set that to reference. Gonna make another raster layer underneath it. I'm gonna come in with ye old selection tool. I'm gonna select all the negative space. This space wasn't being negative. It was being as positive as it could be for empty space. And I, for one, applaud it. Being the best empty space it could be. Track that a little bit right there in this glove. I can already see. And then I'm going to add this little corner down now. This little corner out here. I think that's about all the empty space. Now we're going to take it, flip it, and put it. And then we're going to paint it all a nice medium gray. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that pleasant? Isn't that nice? Now we're going to take our two ink layers and we're going to duplicate them. It didn't duplicate both of them. I don't know why it's been doing that to me. It's only doing it in here. It works on my tablet. All right. Turn off. Turn those. What I'm doing is I'm taking my two vector ink layers and I'm making a copy of them because I want to have my vector layers as vector in case I need to go back and change something later. But I'm copying them and then I'm going to merge them together because because the white of those gunshot layers that are covering everything over, I need to combine that together with that line art so that when I set it to multiply, you can see through them. If I just set that layer to multiply as a separate layer above the other line art, you would just see the line art through it, through those white spots underneath. And let me show you what I'm talking about. I'll turn the originals back on. Okay. What the layer above it has the white with the bullets in it. If I were to just set that to multiply, whoops, I set the wrong layer. If I were to set that to multiply, now you can see all those lines underneath it. But when I combine them into one image and then set it to multiply, now it's one thing. Those white lines are over it in the same layer. It's one image, and now you can see through those lines, and I can paint those yellow or whatever, for bullet shots. But I still have the original art layer if I want to go back and change it. Now comes the time for filling in some flats. Filling in flats with Fishy is brought to you by Fat Men Everywhere. Fat Men, a better way to be. The easier way. You say you sit in your recliner all day cracking jokes and laughing at them? You may be a fat man. Ask your doctor if fat man's right for you. He'll probably say no. Don't listen to him. He's trying to kill your fun. That's what the voices say. The voices never lie. Voices say just nod your head, say you'll do your best, and eat a Twinkie when it leaves, bro. I'm a horrible person. But I'm funny. Now, I'm not going for final colors here, just so you're aware. if you see this and go, wait a second. I'm just trying to block it colors right now, so it'll be easier to select things later. I'm just trying to get in the ballpark for right now. Yeah, right now it's just about blocking in the colors. And separating off each different area by color. I'm going to go ahead and make that a different blue just so they're easy to select on their own. He's relatively easy because he's all purple. Oh, he's just big old Barney's emo stage, all he eats. Yeah. Everybody has to go through it at some point to get all angry, want to shake the fist at the man, glue some razor blades to their head, and go out and show the world they're a tough guy. Yeah, that's what he did. He seemed normal. Well, it didn't seem normal. He was all yum dum diddle dum, this and that, and all of a sudden one day he just started beating the ground. I don't know what got into old Barney. He was a good old boy. One day skinned him and made a super suit out of him. Oh my God, what an origin story. I realized, with careful observation, that Barney was actually immortal. He'd been walking the earth for centuries. So naturally, I had to find a way to kill him and skin him and make a suit out of it. Because then I would be invulnerable. And I no child can hurt me. Oh God, that would be such a funny book. Nobody'd probably buy it, but it'd be funny. And I don't mean to be belittling your character at all. I think your character's cool. I'm just having fun being a weirdo. So pay no attention to the man underneath the drawing. He'd not be taken seriously. The views and opinions expressed in his art stream in no way represent those of the artist. He's just rambling idiot, that's all. He just says whatever stupid thing pops into his head because he's working by himself. All right, and okay, cape. Well, the cape is the same, but I want to make it different color right now so that I can separate it. I want to be able to paint them separately. Yeah, like I said, I'm just separating this out for color blocks right now. So I can use this as a color flat layer to make it easier to select everything. So I'm making things different colors right now so that it'll be easier to select them when I go to paint the regular colors. So yeah, I'm not on model right now, but hopefully I will be by the end of it. Right now is all about the color separations because I've gotten so used to using color flats that even when I'm doing something relatively simple like this, I still use them now because I'm just so accustomed to them. I enjoy them. It makes it much easier to do my job. When I have a nice layer of flats to select everything. I can use airbrushes and textures and whatever else I want to use then. But I'll always have that layer with everything selected out to select from. So like even if like in the comic his gloves and his boots and his belt and his cape are all the same color, If I do that in my color flat layer, then when I select them to like paint the cape, everything gets selected at once. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to select just his gloves and paint them, just his belt. So I'm making them different colors for now. And one of the big points of doing color flats is for saving time. And like, you see how it's taking me time to draw all these little selections out right now, and taking me time to draw out, to fill in these bullet shots right now. But I only have to do this once. I only have to select all these areas out the one time. And after that, every time I need to select that area, I just have to go back to my color flat layer and select from there. And it's done for me. And I don't have to go back and redraw all these little selections 100 times. I don't have to draw around these bullet shots and all the little shards when I want to paint the bullet streaks. I don't have to select around it when I want to paint his cape. I don't have to select around it when I want to paint his suit. And that time is priceless. That amount of time is what cut me down from like the first book I used a flatter on. I was planning on taking me a month and a half, and it took me 12 days over 3 weeks. And I was done. I was shocked at how fast it went. And see, now I've got nice clear selections of just about everything. And the one thing, oh man, it's no worries, man. Don't worry about missing out on all you're missing out on me is talking crazy to stuff. The one little extra step I'm going to take is like I painted everything that gray, and now I'm selecting that gray, and it's showing all those things that pop up. It's all those little. No, wait a minute, that's selected. I was on the wrong thing. That's what it did when I did select color gamut. It was reference layer, not selected layer. That was what I did wrong. Okay, so now I'm selecting all those little bits, and I'm going to make sure that like everything that's supposed to be glove gets painted in glove. Everything that's supposed to be belt gets painted in belt. Yada, yada, yada. I want to make sure I get all those little bits covered, just because sometimes they poke out. Like some of these are in her hair, so I want to select those and get those.
I'm having trouble hearing. Can you say that again?
Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, I see one right there that I missed. Got almost done with that. Okay, there we go. All right, now I got nice clean flats to draw from, and I'm going to make that my reference layer now. Turn back on my inks so I can see what I'm doing. And no, I don't want to leave it the way it is. Okay, and now I'm going to make a new layer to paint on above that. And I'm thinking purple of his suit is a little too. Oops, see, now when I use my select color gamut and I have those flats set as my reference layer, I can select all of the purple of his suit. And I'm leaving his reference layer normal, and I'm going to lock it so that I can't accidentally change it. And now on the layer above it, I can paint whatever I want on that. It doesn't matter how much I texture it or anything. When I go to make a selection, it'll be off of that clean layer that has nice, clean, flat colors. Like I said, I think this purple is a little bit redder and warmer than what you've got. So I'm going to try cooling it down a little bit and paint it. I think that's a little bit closer. And now I can select his gloves and his belt and his cape if I want to, all at the same time, because they're all going to be the same color. And now I can change them to gray. And so now, like, I can paint all of them the same color at once if I want to, or I can go in and select like just his gloves and those pads, and now I could paint on them and whatnot how I want to, which is I'm going to do in a second, but I want to get everybody else's colors pretty close to right. Let me see if I can find an image for her to work off of. It's not too heavily shadowed or anything, to try and get closer to her skin tone. Here. Let's see. Let's select her lips and pick her skin tone. I tend to go a little redder, a little darker. And see how that looks. Really close. Normally that can look a little bit. Just a touch. And see, her green is darker. Still pretty vibrant. Let's see a little bit of that stripe there. Whoops. Probably not far off, though. It's a little bright for what they've got here. I also have to try and think about, like, I'm gonna put highlights and shadows on it, so I'm trying to think what's gonna look good and give me room to highlight still. I'm gonna do a little bit more with those in a minute. But let's see, what are we? Oh, we're at an hour and a half now. All right, I'm gonna sign off of here for now and stretch my back and go check the mail because I got an alert. Amazon delivered something that I needed just in time for the show that got canceled. And I'm gonna stretch a bit, eat some lunch, and then I will get back on this for you, Dan, and I will have you some colors to approve shortly. Anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for hanging out. I appreciate it. It was good having you here, Daniel. Glad you could hang out with us. Hope to see you again soon. And like I said before, I'm Fish. This is the School of Fish. I do free art stream every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on all the Mr. Fish Comics channels, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all of that. And on Thursdays, I've got a Patreon only one that is on my Patreon account for as little as $3 a month. You can follow along and holler stuff out that will end up in the books of Caw and Green Zone and whatnot. Anyway, thank y'all for hanging out. I appreciate y'all being here. I had a good time. Sorry for the hiccups getting started this morning. I have to work the bugs out with that whole TikTok thing. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, and I will see y'all later.
Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School of Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Damn. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail.